Hello and welcome. In this video, we're going to turn our NotebookLM notebook into fill-in-the-blank workbooks. If you have research or information you want to synthesize and put into a notebook for either white labeling or selling, you can do it. We will undertake this process entirely in the Google ecosystem. Assuming that you know how to create a NotebookLM notebook, you want to create a notebook with the sources for your emphasis or your business philosophy or whatever it is that you want to teach people in a workbook. You want to take this information and you'll want to synthesize it using the studio assets in NotebookLM. So by going inside of Google Gemini, we're going to attach the NotebookLM notebook we're going to be working with, and we're going to ask Gemini to give us a prompt. We're going to ask for Gemini to give us a prompt for a mind map, an infographic, data table, and slide deck. If you want to use other studio assets, you can ask for them. For example, if you want to have an audio brief or you want to have a video overview, you can get one. However, for the sake of our process, we only really need these four in order to create a proper synthesis of the information. We're going to enter in our prompt. We will then click enter. We do have a choice. We can go to the ellipsis. We can export this information to Google Docs, or we can output the information as one single Google Doc. We're going to use our Pro query. Our document is now archived as a Google Doc. We can open it, and we can then organize it into the right folder. We're going to enter each one of these prompts one at a time into NotebookLM. So we're going to copy each one, and we're going to enter into NotebookLM. We are going to go into the studio. We're going to go into the mind map in this case. Now, when it comes to creating a mind map here in NotebookLM, NotebookLM does not allow you to customize the mind map. So what we're going to be doing is we're first going to just click on the mind map. There's no customization that's going to be involved. But what we can do is we can go to the infographic, and we're actually going to be using the infographic as if it is a mind map. We're going to place in our prompt. We're then going to generate an infographic that will serve as a mind map according to our specifications. We will use the infographic prompt to generate a second infographic, and that is the second infographic that you see being created. What we will also now do is we will now also create a data table. So we will copy it, and we will then create a new data table, and we will place in our prompt. And finally, we will generate our slide deck. So we'll copy it. We will then enter the editing field. We will then create our slide deck. What we need to do now is we will need to await for the assets to complete. Now, there are a number of ways that you could proceed after this point. You could put all of these elements into the source area and then get one more synthesis and then pull that one synthesis into Gemini. The real purpose of using all of these forms is to cover the same synthesis from different vantage points. What we're now going to do is we're going to download each one of these to our hard drive. We have our documents downloaded to our hard drive. We can then add them to the conversation. In this case, we are not going to use structured prompting. We're going to ask Gemini to turn this information into a fill-in-the-blank workbook. And so once we have in our prompt, we'll then submit to Gemini. And Gemini has now completed our files. We're going to answer its question and state, yes, we do want this document uploaded to our Google Drive, which we will categorize at a later time. And so Gemini will then upload the PDF to your Google Drive. Gemini will then confirm that your PDF is then archived to Google Drive. We can now view our doc and our PDF. And we now have our document, which is our fill-in-the-blank notebook. And we also have the PDF version, which we can click on and view. And we can then see our fill-in-the-blank notebook. What we now want to do is make sure to create a repeat process. We want to put this repeat process inside of Gemini Gems. So we're going to write in plain language that what we want is for Gemini to assist us in writing the instructions for our Gemini Gem. So in this prompt, what we want to happen is for the individual to come to a Gemini Gem. They need to type in a trigger phrase. We'll tell them what that trigger phrase will be in the description area. And then they should then be asked to attach their NotebookLM notebook. We then want the gem to write the synthesis document prompts and then to store them as a Google Doc. That is the prompt that we will place here in the dialog box. Gemini has now outlined the first part of the gem. We are going to go into Gemini. We're going to go into the gems area. We're then going to create a new gem. And we now have all the information that we need. We're going to just copy this gem name, even though you can name this gem whatever you want to name it. The description is where we tell ourselves or the customer what to do. We can then copy the prompt or the instructions. We're going to enter them here. For this gem, we don't need a default tool or we don't have to attach a knowledge file. We can then save the new gem. We can then start chat to have the new gem. We have now turned the repetitive part of the process into a gem so that we can come back and then we can start faster to create our next workbook. Now for this prompt, we're going to create a second gem. And the second gem is basically going to create the actual notebook. It's going to make sure that all the documents have been uploaded by the user. So we will copy this prompt. We will head back to Gemini. And we have created one gem. We're now going to enter a new prompt and we're going to submit. And for the second part of the process, we're going to expand the menu. We're going to go into the gem area. We're going to create a new gem. We're going to copy in the information that Gemini has given us. Again, you can name these things whatever you want. The most important thing is going to be that the description is a reminder of what to do and that you can then use the instructions as given to us by Gemini. In this case, we don't need a default tool or a knowledge tool. We will then save the process. And our process is now saved. We can now share both of these gems together with a customer or a client, or we can just use them both for ourselves to create our own notebooks from our NotebookLM information. And one important thing to note is that you may notice that there are slight variations between the final PDF version and the document that you have that's going to be adaptable. You're going to want to note the exact differences if you're going to use them both interchangeably. For example, here inside of the Google Doc, there is one additional question here that's not in the PDF document. So these are definitely things that you'll want to take note of before you deploy the final version to a customer. If you find corrections need to be made to the process, you can make those same corrections to one or both gems that you created for the repeat process. Okay, so thanks, and I will see you in another video.